There are few things more powerful than a woman scorned. But what about a warrior princess scorned? Welcome back to the channel. Today we will meet a Vietnamese Joan of Arc. Lady Triệu was a real-life Vietnamese warrior princess who lived in the 3rd century AD. She is now considered one of the most important figures in Vietnamese history. And although there is some debate as to how much of her story is fact and how much is fiction, historians agree that she was a legendary warrior whose bravery and cunning led an uprising against Chinese rulers in northern Vietnam. But unlike Joan of Arc, who went on to become a saint after being burned at the stake, Triệu was killed in battle. Yet her legacy lives on in poetry, paintings, and songs, not only as a military leader, but as a beacon for those fighting for their independence. Triệu is believed to have been born in 240 AD into the royal family of Van Lang, a small kingdom that existed in northern Vietnam from around the 2nd century BC to the 3rd century AD. Her father was King Thuc Pham, while her mother was Princess Na, the daughter of King Hung, who had overthrown the Chinese and established Van Lang after they had occupied it for years. As a child, Triệu would ride on the back of elephants with her brother and cousins, wearing golden helmets and waving toy swords. Even at this point, it seems that she had an affinity for battle and the art of war, which might have been because of stories told to her by her grandfather, King Hung. When he reclaimed the throne from the Chinese, it was said that a dragon appeared to him in a dream and helped him defeat his enemy. He then passed on this knowledge of tactics and strategies to his son and eventually his granddaughter, Triệu. Unfortunately, peace didn't last forever, and once again the Chinese came to lay siege to Van Lang. This time they were led by a man named Shixi, who was eager to reclaim control of the region for his empire. In order to get the upper hand, he made a deal with Triu's uncle, persuading him to betray the king and the kingdom. They agreed that if Shixi could get past the border and reach the capital, then her uncle would help him seize the throne and make him king of Van Lang. The plan worked. The city was infiltrated and the king was forced to flee. He put his trust in Triệu and gave her the seal of the kingdom, passing on the responsibility and the hope that she would restore order and retake the throne. Now disguised as a commoner, Triệu and her family escaped through the forest, hiding during the day and traveling at night. At some point along the way, her father was captured and killed by the Chinese army. According to legend, when she heard the news, Triu's response was, "Heaven has endowed me with a body, bones, flesh, and blood. Like any other man, I can endure hunger and fatigue. Like any other man, I am capable of killing." These words are taken from the poem of Triệu, a collection of poems written in the 18th century that tells the tale of her heroic exploits. The poem goes on to say that the princess was training to become a warrior so that she could take revenge for her father and liberate her people from the tyranny of the Chinese. With these words, she called on all the maidens of Van Lang to join her cause. Over 2,000 women answered her call, many of whom left behind their husbands and children to fight. It is said that Triệu taught them how to become fierce fighters, showing them how to use their feminine wiles to lure enemies into traps and also teaching them how to wield swords and spears. Soon her army was no longer just made up of women, but of men as well. Farmers, merchants, and laborers joined her ranks, as well as many members of the royal court. Some sources say that over 70,000 soldiers joined her banner. At this point, Triệu was only 16 years old. So while she was indeed fierce and undoubtedly brave, her army wasn't completely successful in battle. Many times they lost to the Chinese, even though they tried to use guerrilla warfare tactics. It wasn't until Triệu was 19 that her forces were able to secure a major victory. By this time, she had earned the title Lady Triệu, and in 254 AD, she led her troops to defeat the Chinese general Mao Dun near the modern-day city of Hanoi. Unfortunately, the source material doesn't tell us much about how she won the battle, but according to historian Keith Taylor, this victory energized her cause. From that point on, her reputation spread far and wide across Vietnam, and she became known as the Vietnamese Joan of Arc, or the female Sun Tzu. Soon, soldiers from neighboring regions were coming to join her cause, hoping to throw off the shackles of the Chinese and gain independence for themselves. By 258 AD, Triu's army was strong enough that she felt confident leading a large-scale attack. She wanted to capture the city of Luan, where the Chinese general and her uncle resided, but the journey there was long and fraught with danger. So before setting out, she wrote a letter to her uncle, warning him that if he didn't surrender, she would come to kill him herself. However, he didn't take her threat seriously and instead sent soldiers to intercept her army. Once again, the two armies met in battle, but this time it was different. Unlike the previous fights that ended in retreats and escapes, Triệu and her troops defeated her uncle's forces. And when they reached the city, she ordered that it be besieged. For 3 whole months, her army kept the Chinese locked inside, cutting off food supplies and preventing anyone from entering or leaving. Finally, the general realized that he couldn't hold out much longer. So he surrendered and gave Triệu everything that was in the treasury, including gold, silver, precious stones, and fine garments. He then bowed down to her and declared her the true ruler of Van Lang. From that point on, he pledged to support her and help her rule. After securing her power base, Triu's next move was to write a letter to the Chinese emperor, demanding that he withdraw his troops from Vietnam and recognize her as the legitimate ruler of Van Lang. She wrote, "You must know that my land is not a part of China, and my people are not Chinese subjects. Heaven and earth have created the Chinese nation. The Yellow River has produced the Chinese race. Our home lies to the east of yours. Our customs, clothes, institutions, and habits are different from yours. If your troops do not withdraw, I shall raise an army of millions to attack you." The emperor was furious upon reading her letter and felt insulted by her words. He wanted nothing more than to crush her rebellion and snuff out her claim to the throne. So he sent a new general to Vietnam to defeat her and bring her back to China in chains. The problem was that Triệu was too clever for him. While he was on his way to confront her, she ambushed his supply train and cut off his access to food. Then she began harassing his troops, attacking them and disappearing before they could retaliate. Because of this, the general became desperate and recalled backup. But while waiting for reinforcements, he and his men suffered from starvation and disease. Eventually, 10,000 of them died and the rest surrendered to Triệu. The remaining generals who survived were executed by her. But she showed mercy to the soldiers, letting them go with their lives and sending them back to the Chinese emperor with news of their defeat. After this battle, no other Chinese ruler dared to challenge Triu's power. She continued to rule for several decades, finally giving up the throne when she was around 70 years old. Although she spent her later years in relative peace, she never let down her guard and always prepared for the possibility of another Chinese invasion. In fact, she trained her 2 sons to become warriors, teaching them the same skills that she had learned so many years ago. Just as she predicted, they would soon need those skills as another Chinese emperor sought to expand his territory into Vietnam. When the armies met on the battlefield, both of Triu's sons were killed. Though grief-stricken, she knew that she had to keep going, so she rallied her troops and fought alongside them. Unfortunately, she was wounded in the battle, and when she took off her armor, it revealed that she had no ribs on her left side. It was then that she knew her time had come and she had been destined to die on the battlefield. Before her death, she summoned her followers and told them to continue resisting the Chinese. She did not want her sacrifices and the sacrifices of her sons to have been in vain. And although she perished, her legend lived on. Centuries after her death, Vietnamese poets, painters, and playwrights immortalized her bravery, making her the country's first national heroine and a symbol of the Vietnamese spirit. So what do you think? Did you already know about Vietnam's legendary warrior princess? Let me know down in the comments. And while you're there, don't forget to subscribe for more historical tales. I'd also like to take a moment to say a huge thank you to our supporters whose names you can see on screen right now. Thanks for watching. See you next time.